Okay, today we're going to cover the lower body, and lower body, I want you to understand, is comprised of three main joints. Our hip joint, which is the groin, okay? A joint is where you can flex and extend, and then your knee joint and your ankle. So we're going to look at the muscles that surround those joints and what exercises that work and what actions happen at those joints, okay? Of course, we're going to get started with a dynamic warm-up, very quick one. But before we do that, I'm just going to cover what happens at the hip, knee, and ankle very quickly. The hip joint, as you can see, can extend, or flex. When you lower the angle at a joint, it's called flexion. So you can flex your hip. You don't have to flex the knee at the same time, just flexing the hip. And then from the flexion, you can extend it back to its neutral or hyperextend it away from its neutral. So that's one action. Hip joint also can go out and in. This one is called abduction with a B, okay? Also, this is used when a child is taken away from home, child abduction, which is not a fun subject, but that's how you can remember. So when you move your leg away from the midsection, it's called abduction. And when you bring it back, you add it back to the center, called adduction. There's also rotation, internal and external, but I'm not going to focus on it that much today. And then at the knee level, you have your knee flexion and knee extension, and there are muscles associated with it. When you do a flexion and extension, I'll show you in a minute. And finally, your ankle can also flex and extend. I'll show you from the side view. So when you flex your ankle or move your toes towards your head, it's called dorsiflexion. That's a specific name for your ankle joint. It's the same thing as flexing your knee, but when you flex your ankle, it's called dorsiflexion. And when you point your toes down, it's called plantar flexion. And the main exercise, there's also other movements. You can turn your toes out to the side and also push to the side, outwards or inwards, but we're not going to be focusing on them with an exercise perspective in mind. So we're just going to be focusing on dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. And you guys know from the gym, the main exercise to work the ankle joint is raising your toes, raising up on your toes, or it's called otherwise calf raises, okay? So those are the main actions that happen in the lower body. What are the muscles? Of course, the glutes comprise a big portion of the lower body, okay? And the glutes can work with the extension of the hip action, okay? So whenever you extend your hips, hip joint, okay, you're gonna be working your glutes. There's also another action called abduction, which works the other portion of your glutes. So glutes are three different muscle groups: gluteus medius, maximus, and minimus. So when you go sideways with your exercises, you're going to end up working your medius, which is important for your core strength and balance. We're going to focus on that too. Okay, if you're ready, we're going to get started with a warm-up dynamic. So go ahead and bring your legs together. Inhale as you raise your arms up. Exhale, come back. One more. As you're doing this, you're adducting the legs, okay? That means pinching your legs together toward the midsection. And then go ahead and reach up. Reach and lengthen the sides. And interlace your fingers. I know we're not going to be working the upper body too much. This is just to lengthen the spine overall. And then open up the scapula, because we're going to be loading our squats with some weight up above us, right? You have to work against gravity to be able to work the muscle. So when you work against gravity what you can do is adding weights to it. You can add the weight on top of your head, on your shoulders, in your chest, okay? Just like the back squat or front squat, as you might have seen in the gyms, okay? Extend your legs and arms in the back and roll your shoulders. Let's do a couple of those backwards, a couple of those forward. And then gently, we're just gonna reach side to side to get the spine going, warm, okay? And then side to, just a rotation side to side with your arms swinging on the sides. This should be gentle too. Perfect. I'm not gonna focus on the upper body. So put your hands here, keeping the shoulders down. Get your left leg up, right leg supporting you with a slight bend at the knee. So don't block your knee out like this. Keep sitting on that leg. Make sure it carries you, okay? So toe taps. Give me 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. And to the side, 1. You can add the arm to it without hunching with the spine. 3, 4. Tap your toes behind you and bring the knee into your chest again. 2, 3. There goes your hip rotation. So let's do 2 out, and then let's do 4, 3, 2, and 1 more in. Now let's swing the leg freely, forward, backward, and then sideways. Just like we talked about, we should also focus on the frontal plane. That means moving sideways. Good enough for this side. Now, tap your toes in the front with the other side. 2, 3, 1 more, 4. Arm out to the side, stay straight. 1, 2. See, as you can see, we're dynamically warming up those muscles that we're gonna work. And tap back and pull it in. 3, pull it in. 2, pull it in. 1, and knee circles. Actually, this is a hip circle. External rotation at the hip 4 times, and then internal rotation. Of course, there's flexions and extensions going on at the same time. Now, take your hip joint through the full range of motion if you can by swinging forward, backward, and sideways. Perfect. Now, let's warm up the knee joint by doing leg curls, which is equal to knee flexion, which works your hamstrings. As I'm going to teach you the movement, I'm going to teach you the muscles that work with the movement so you can learn at the same time. Now turn around, open your arms like a V, okay? Bend your knee, reach for your heel. So that's an external rotation of your hip, dynamically, standing. Breathe, 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 and 1. That's enough, okay? Now let's just wiggle in place. Get those arms, legs, move freely, and get the body temperature up, which is not that hard nowadays. Okay. Now, the first movement in the warm-up, structured movement, is the squat. We've been doing this for a while, but today I'm going to teach you again how to do a proper squat. So squat is meant to flex your knees, hips, knees, and ankles. So it's called a compound exercise. When you work multiple joints within one exercise, not just one joint, like the bicep curl. When you do a bicep curl, you're just moving one joint, okay? But with a squat, you're working or moving your 3 joints in the lower body. That's why it's called a compound exercise, not an isolation exercise. That's why we like it, so that we can transform the benefit into our daily lives. We call those exercises kind of functional, okay? It's helping us to be more functional in real life. So we're gonna start flexing at the hips, which is also called a hip hinge movement. When you don't focus on your ankles and knees and just focus on your hips, you're doing a hip hinge. And you're also not doing any movement in the spine, okay? This is a hip hinge. Yes, you're gonna feel a little bit of a stretch in your hamstrings. You can bend your knees a little bit. Don't lock them too much. Just bend the knees, keep your spine nice and flat. That's a hip hinge. You can get support with your hands by just touching your thighs and come up straight. That's a hip hinge. To be able to learn a proper squat, you need to learn the hip hinge first, because you're initiating your squat with a hip hinge. Not as much as this. This is called a deadlift, okay? Stiff-legged deadlift, because we're not really moving the knees. That's why it's called stiff-legged deadlift, okay? You can load this, but now we're in the warm-up. We're not gonna load any exercise. After the hip hinge, we're gonna add to this movement the knee action, and then of course ankles, right? To do a squat. Reach your arms out so it balances you. And then get up, extend your hips fully, knees fully, without locking too much, and then going back to the neutral with the ankles. That's your squat. Let's go 8, 7. When are we breathing out in this exercise? When we get up, okay? Because that's when we really exert ourselves, not when you go down. When you go down, it is the resetting of the movement, so you can challenge your muscles when you get up. 2 more and 1 more. Nice. So we covered the hip hinge and then the squat. There's also another pattern we employ for the lower body, which is called lunge, or when we don't take a step forward, we call that a split squat or a stationary lunge. So from the squatted position, keep the distance sideways the same, just like you're doing the squat, which is shoulder distance apart, right? When you're gonna do a split squat. So just keep the distance between the feet, slide 1 foot behind you, tuck your pelvis under, which bends your knee automatically, okay? And your hips should be squared, facing forward. Start with bending the back knee, not the front. Don't focus on the front too much. Just the front heel is carrying your weight. That's all you need to know, not the toes. And get up. So you're going down to reset and breathe out as you get up, because that's when you challenge your body. Can we load this? Oh, yes, we can. What is the direction of the pull here? When I get up, it's directly opposite to the ground force, which is the gravity, okay? So if you load this exercise against that gravity by adding weight here in the shoulders or on top of your head, or you can just simply carry your dumbbells on the side, that's going to be your workout for the day. And then let's switch and do the other side. Again, it's hard for you to see from the side view, but when you look at me from the front, I still maintain the distance between my legs. I'm not doing an acrobacy by just bringing my feet on the same line, okay? And then from the side view, tuck your pelvis under, straighten the spine, and bend the knee in the back. As you push up, you have to be pushing with the front heel, nothing else. And the back heel is always raised, not touching the floor. 2 more, and 1 more. So that was the flexion and extension action we mimicked to get the muscles warm. Now we're gonna open our legs wide, okay? And first perform a hip hinge. You know what a hip hinge now. Now, we're gonna take this to another plane of motion, which is frontal plane, by bending one knee, sticking the butt out, not hunching forward, keeping the chest up, and get up to the middle, and then the other knee. So we're kind of moving our body side to side. Now you can add that opposite arm to touch the opposite foot. Your key is to keep that back nice and straight, right? See? Okay. Now, when you are in the middle, walk your feet together and then slowly roll up by rounding the spine, okay? Standing warm-up is good enough for your lower body workout day. Yes, you can do some floor warm-up exercise that I showed you before, but we don't have to, okay? Now, one more thing before we begin our workout is to warm up the ankles a little bit. You know, they're the weakest link in this chain, if you think about it. So you really need to protect your ankles. Let's raise up on the toes of the feet. You can always add arm movement to lengthen the spine as well as you warm up the ankles. So alternating arm raises for this action. And then let's go one ankle at a time. And shake it out. Good job. Let's get some water. Okay. Whenever you're gonna do a lower body workout, you have options to do it bilaterally, okay? What does that mean? That means you're using both limbs, okay? Your right and left leg simultaneously without alternating. So those legs work as a team doing the same thing. That's called bilateral. Bi means two, lateral means side, so two sides together. There is another option, unilateral, which is more challenging for your balance. But it has been shown to improve muscle strength of your glute medius, which is crucial for your core strength and lower back health. That's why we need to sprinkle our workout with some unilateral exercises for the lower body. And then you have another option, which is alternating. This is easier than just doing a single leg or just focusing on one side only. So if you alternate, your brain is less tired than doing it only on one side. That's a variation of a unilateral movement. And then explosive, okay? Which we're gonna incorporate those movements in our high intensity interval training workouts. So we need to learn how to do an explosive squat, how to do a single legged or alternating, and then regular bilateral squat. Let's begin with the bilateral squat, which you guys already know, but I want you to practice loading it differently. Okay, let's begin with the simplest way of loading a squat. I'm gonna reach down without bending my spine, okay, bending my knees and hips, and one split squat is the best way to reach down to pick up something from the floor. I'm gonna use 8-pounders on each side, okay? So I can hold these weights and do my squats this way. Where's the challenge? Let's do a couple and see where the challenge is. Remember, when we do it in the warm-up, we use our arms to give us some trade-off with our balance. Now we don't have that option. And this is gonna force you to have a bad posture if you can't control your weight, and then you'll end up hurting your back. So you really have to be careful with this. You have to stick your butt out, and if you don't have adequate flexibility, you just have to change the way you load your squat, okay? What can we do? We can, if we don't have a barbell, we can just put these over our shoulders, okay? And then fix it so that they don't roll off and then drop on the floor. So we just hold them in the front without lifting with the arms. So they're just sitting there. And then just do the squats this way. Again, you don't have the option of reaching with your arms. But that's gonna give you more workout for your core. That's why squat is considered to be part of a core workout. Okay, so that's another way you load your squat. And then there is also another squat called Goblet Squat. You just load your squat where the weight is in the front, okay? So your body needs to lean backwards to provide you from falling forward. That's a great challenge for your core again. But when you do a goblet squat, you really need to keep the shoulders back and spine straight without hunching forward. So you can just place the palms of your hand underneath that edge of your dumbbell, okay? And then sit back and get up. Make sure you're pinching those glutes when you get up to complete the squat. And if you have a ball or a watermelon, one of my students over the summer, he was using a watermelon. My ball is 14 pounders, so I can just, excuse me, hug my ball in front of my chest and then do the squat bilaterally this way. So if you want to make an exercise a little more challenging for your core, so you get your core in the way done, excuse me, you have to move your limbs away from the center of gravity of your body. So another way, which is this one is too heavy for my arms, but I can do it with a dumbbell, just one. Holding on to the sides of the dumbbell, moving this away from the center of gravity in front of me or up above my head, okay? So those will challenge a different muscle groups, but that's fine. So let's try this in the front. You have to engage your core so you don't jeopardize your body form when you sit back for a squat. Let's do it up above the head, which is way more challenging. You can do this with 2 dumbbells or just 1 or a barbell, okay? All right, guys, get some water. That's about bilateral squat. I also like, excuse me, this air quality is getting all our performance lower than what it's supposed to be. I love using the resistance bands, but they need to be long enough, okay? So I just step on it to make the exercise a little bit more functional. I add an upper body movement. Since we haven't covered that yet, I'm not forcing you to do it, but I'll show you. So let's say I'm pretending that I'm holding on to a pair of dumbbells over my shoulders, just like that. As I come up, I can raise my arms up above my head to do an overhead press, shoulder press, which makes this exercise a functional exercise. I'll show you from the side. Do you have to do this? No, you can just use the resistance band to give you more resistance, AKA more challenge for your squat only. Okay, here comes the fun part. Okay, one or single-legged squat. So maybe you've been seeing this. It's called a pistol squat, which is way difficult. I'm not going to do that, but just to begin with, understanding or helping your brain understand the action, pick up your knee. It doesn't matter which side, we're going to do both sides. Just like we're doing the toe taps, just try to maintain this straight spine position. Now, what do you do when you initiate a squat? You do a hip hinge. Same thing, hip hinge, slight, then you start bending the knee, and then stick your butt out. You can use your arms in the front and get up, and don't put the other foot down on the floor. I'll show you from this side. This is a great balance exercise. Let's perform 5. 3, you have to push against your heel, not your toes. Your heel stays on the floor at all times. 4 and 5. So that's a unilateral squat. You got to understand these for the quiz too. Okay, let's switch and do the other side 5 times. Pick up the other leg. If you carry the other leg in front of you, that's going to be a little bit harder than if you were to carry it behind you. So if you're a beginner, you can't start with your leg behind you, or you can hold on to a stable place, but that's going to throw your chest out of alignment, which I don't want you to do. So if you have to, of course you have to, but try not to hold on to anything, so you build awareness through your brain and keep a good posture. All right, okay. So that's about the squats, unilateral and bilateral. Now, I'm gonna be real out of breath. Even with these I am. Now I'm gonna show you how to do the explosive version of a squat, bilateral. So explosive means there's a coil recoil cycle, just like when you're trying to catch a bird. So you just pull that elastic band which you have in your muscles out, wind up, and then release, which is going to make you airborne. Okay, same thing. That's why you have to go through the coiling, which is lowering, but don't spend too much time on it. This is also called plyometrics. Reach down and then push up and land again. Okay, that's your squat jump, which is an explosive squat. You really have to be careful with maintaining your body posture, just like in the squat. All right, let's go through 5 of these just for the sake of learning. Sit back, arms behind you, reach up, 1, and land on your heels, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. All right, we're not done with the explosive squat. So we're gonna do it on the other side, or one leg at a time. So just like the squat we did with no weight, we can add weights to it. We're just gonna go on one leg, squat, jump, 2, without hunching your back, 3, 4, 5, and switch. Okay, pick up the other knee in front of you, reach back with your arms, and 1, push, and 2, push, 3, 4, and 1. That's good enough. Okay, let's get some water. Breathe. All right, lunge. You guys know how to do the split squat or stationary lunge by now. How do you load it? With those weights out to the sides, take a step forward, or come back to the front, slide one foot behind you, which is more doable, okay? Tuck the pelvis under. These are on the sides. You're not holding the weights like this, but open your chest like you're proud, and down, up, down. Let's do 3 only because we've already done these. I'm just showing you how to load them. Another way to load these, keep the weights up above your shoulders. 1, 2, 3, and switch again. This time, let's make this more interesting. Up above your head, okay? I hope you can see me. 1, without compensating forward or backward. 3, lower. Get rid of one of the weights. Take this, switch the legs, push this out of your body, and do it with this core challenge. Okay. Of course, other ways are moving your arms, limbs, away from the center of your body, out to the sides when you do a lunge, okay? So you'll see this when after I teach you the upper body exercises, but let's go back to the split squat position and add lateral raises to my lunge. Okay, 3 is good enough. We'll be doing a lot of these. Now, there's also another exercise called front raise, which is not swinging the arms up and down, but lifting the arms up, lowering. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now this is not a lunge yet. This is a stationary lunge or a split squat. When you want to do a lunge, there needs to be a propelling action, which is moving forward, okay? You can start practicing your lunges by moving backward, which makes it much more easier on your posture. Because when you cannot control your body's movement forward or propel action forward, then you're going to end up putting all your weight onto your knees. Then your knees will hurt. So what I mean by a lunge forward is taking a step forward, remembering all the cues about a good posture, lunging down, and then coming back to base to where you started. Then switch. This is an alternating lunge, okay? Lunge is by nature is a one limb exercise, okay? So to make this easier, you go to the front and you take a step back instead of going forward. That's how you need to begin your lunging exercises. Back, or you can just repeat it on the same side, which makes it a unilateral single-sided exercise, or unilateral alternative right and left. Okay, you can load this exercise the way you load the squats. How do you make a lunge explosive? Well, this is an advanced exercise. So make sure you don't push your body, maybe not today, but for the sake of teaching you, I have to teach you today how to do an explosive lunge. So let's say you just started in the right foot forward, left back, lunged position. Just like you coil and recoil with the squat, you coil, push your body, get up in the air, airborne, and then land. Of course, if you use your arms to support you or get you that momentum, that's going to make it easier. But if you try to keep the arms stable behind your head or here, that's going to be more challenging. Okay, so that's your explosive lunge. Here is the interesting stuff about lunging. Just like I showed you that we have an abduction and adduction actions at the hip joint, we will use that fact to create another exercise called a side lunge. Okay, so this is a little more challenging for your core. Again, if you can't control the straightening of your spine, you're going to end up hurting the knees, or overall in the long term, hurting your lower back. So I'm not going to do any loading yet, but I'll show you what your options are. Okay, you can do this stationary, which is the thing that we did for the warm-up. But when you look at me from the front, it's easy to skip one of the very important points. Now I want you to look at me from the side, okay? So you see what I mean by keeping your knees right on top of your toe level. So what you're doing is you're leading the movement with your tailbone by sticking your tailbone out first. That's your key. And then bending the knee and sitting on that side and come up and do the other side, okay? It's easy when you do this stationary move to keep your chest up, straight spine. Now, the real side lunge is when you do take a step out to the side. So when you take a step out to the side, first, you need to be gentle. You don't want to stomp the floor like, okay, that's wrong. And what you need to do, you can even use a navigation line. Stay behind it with both of your feet, okay? So let's say I have a line here. I can use one of my resistance bands. But you can't see here still. Okay, I can stand behind this or in the middle, so I can do alternative, and then take a large step to the side. It has to be large enough to accommodate your body in the middle, okay? I don't have enough space here to show you a good lunge. See, this distance is not good for me because then I'm gonna end up needing to bend both knees, which I shouldn't. So I should only bend the knee that is taking the step out. Don't forget this, okay? Let's say I have my navigation line and I'm taking a step large out to the side, bending that knee, and both feet pointed forward, as you can see, okay? And then coming back to my base, and then repeat. And here, now look at me from the side, sticking my butt out, not letting my chest drop forward and push back. Not that easy, I understand. We're just learning the basics today. We can do this alternating, which is go to the right, come back to the center, go to the left, come back to the center. Can I load this? Oh, yes, I can. I can load this, same thing, weight up above my shoulders, or here's the interesting thing. I can get a shorter band, a loop, and then wear it around my thighs, which just tore. But I just ordered these new loops from the internet. Hopefully I'll get them today or tomorrow. So I had another one, but that's really tight. Okay, why do I wear them? This is a big question I get from everyone. Over my knees rather than around my ankles. Well, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to challenge the muscle on the side. Remember, gluteus medius, which keeps you strong for your core and balance. If you put it around your ankles, it's going to be challenging the leg more than the hip. So we want to get that band closer to the joint that we're trying to challenge. So, and then go out. See, this is too short for this movement. The other one just got ripped. And then do this. Okay, all right. So that's about bilateral. Unilateral lunge is by nature is a unilateral movement. You can't really, maybe if you jump explosively, but that's considered to be a squat. Anyways, so how can I make the side lunge explosive? Just like you take a step out, you can jump and jump, jump and jump, and land like this. Also, you can make this a nice skater move where you cross the back leg behind you. But that's an explosive version of another lunge, which is called a curtsy lunge. I really want to teach you that too, because it's hitting your glutes the best, in my opinion. So curtsy lunge, you just like inviting someone for a dance, you go into this position and come back to center by crossing the leg behind the other one. Okay, what are the key points? Imagine a letter A, a capital letter, okay? A, and or a mountain top. You're sitting at the mountain top with both legs at that point and imagining the opening of that letter A. And you're just gonna place the toes of the foot that you're moving with the leg on the corner of the A, and then bring it back to center. What's the key? The key is to keep these bones at your pelvis pointing forward at all times. Okay, they want to turn back, but you have to eliminate that. Prevent that from happening. And you'll feel your glutes working with this. I can load this with many ways, moving my arms with some weights out to the sides, into the front, up above my head, okay? Or carry the weights right by my side. Okay. And then the explosive version of this is what I just showed you. Ice skater, side to side, explosive, higher, and taking a large distance. Okay, that's about the compound exercise for your hip, of course your legs and ankles. We moved everything. We also want to learn the deadlift, which is the basic hip hinge movement. So when you do a deadlift in the gym with a barbell, since this is not a weight training class, I'm not going to focus on that. You have to learn the best way, proper way to do a barbell deadlift. Here, we're going to use some hand weights, more practical. You don't have to use a really heavy weight, and just do the same movement you did for the warm-up. Just like you're hanging your chest, you know, at the edge of a balcony or something to look down, without worrying about the knees, without worrying about what to do with the arms. You just hang them. But here's the key. When you have weights in your hand, they're gonna pull you down, pull your shoulders down to separate your scapula or shoulder blades. So you should avoid that. You should prevent that and fight against that inclination or instinct or gravity, okay? So just fixate the place of your weight and come up. Down, reach, and come up. Down, reach, come up. 2 more only. Up. These are really important movements for your glutes. Now, do we have a unilateral version of this? Of course we do. We should use a lighter set of weights, okay? These are 5-pounders or just one, okay? So this Romanian deadlift is the name of this exercise. You might have seen this. You reach the leg that you're not going to use behind you straight. You're carrying this with the other leg, and the weight of a leg is a lot, okay? That's the heaviest portion of our body. So you're just going to carry the weight of your leg behind you and hand weights in front of you, down without rounding your spine, rounding the shoulders, chest up, come up without touching the other foot back to the floor. So down and up. Down. See, this is the key here, guys. Shoulders. Don't let the scapula protract. That means separate from one another. Then you can switch, and in the switch or the other leg, I'll show you the other version of the hand weight. So if you're going to work the left leg, reaching the right leg behind you, you should be holding the weight, just single dumbbell, with your right hand, opposite side, okay? And then reach as far as you can. You don't have to touch the floor, okay? As far as you can to keep the spine straight and neutral. These are great exercises, guys, for your glutes, because what have we been doing? Sitting all day. And when you sit, your glute muscles lengthen and lose their strength, which will come back and hurt you in the lower back area and in other actions in the body. So we really need to focus on strengthening the glutes. Is there an explosive version? Yes, I call this a pogo. So you just reach down and then come up and jump on that leg without putting the leg back down to the floor. Reach down and jump. And let's switch. Do 3 of the same on the other side. 1, 2, and 3. So these were all standing movements. Okay, what can we do on the floor? I'll show you. One of the key exercises that you need to incorporate in your workout, hip thrust, okay, or bridge. You can do a hip thrust on the floor, but you won't have a deficit on the floor, which means you can't go lower than the level of the floor. But if you do it at the edge of, bench is the most ideal thing, but since we are working out at home, if you can find a chair that is sturdy and put it against the wall, or if you can use the side of your bed, which I can show you, okay? So my bed is a little, mattress is high, so it's too high maybe. So I'm gonna be placing the head and the shoulders, head not necessarily, and then place my dumbbells or my ball, okay, depending on what I need for the weight. And then lower See, this is hip flexion movement, right? So lower my hips down. See, that's the deficit that I'm talking about. And then full extension. So you're really lifting these dumbbells up against the gravity, which is going to make your glutes really strong, okay? So that's one option. I'll show you how to do it on the floor. Hip thrust is really, really important. Okay, let's get down to the floor. And I love using my medicine ball when I do my hip thrust. I'm just checking if I'm missing anything. Yeah, okay, perfect. So when you lay down on the floor, on the back, okay, on your back, it's called a supine position, S-U-P-I-N-E, supine. So you can remember this, just like my anatomy teacher taught us. Let's say you're a beggar, you're begging for soup, okay? Please have some soup for me. You're just placing the palm of your hand up. Just think about the palm of your hand is like your face, okay? Facing up is supine or supination, and facing down, chest down on the floor, is called prone or pronation. So supine position, because this is supposed to be in your homework, that's why I'm telling you. Okay, you just lay down, okay? Place your loading, whatever it is. Can be the ball, it can be the weights, on your groin, and then push without changing the position of your spine. That's the key. Keep the spine neutral. See, this is what I'm talking about. I have a limitation, which is the floor. I can't go lower than the floor when I do this on the floor. So if you can do it at the edge of a chair or a bed or a bench, that's going to be more effective. Okay? Now, can I do this unilaterally? Yes, I can. And just like I said, even just the weight of one leg would be enough for you. Okay? If you just lift it up in the air and just do your hip thrust with one side, even that is good. But if you can add an additional dumbbell sitting at your groin, you have to just hold it in place so it doesn't roll off. Okay? All right. So those are your hip thrusts. Then you can do some side lying, leg abduction and adduction exercises. Those are totally isolation exercises. So if I'm limited by time, if you were to ask my choices, I would go with the lunges, which is more compound, more functional. But if I really want to focus on just strengthening one muscle group, I'm going to focus on just working that muscle group without worrying about any other place in my body. So leg abduction is when you lay on your side and lift. Remember, I told you abduction is when you move your leg away from the center of your body. So that's going to work. The outer hips, you can do this with a bent knee, okay? Or both knees bent and add a little outer rotation, external rotation. These are called clams. Okay, it's going to work the glute, medius, and maximus. All right? And if you want to work the inner portion of your legs, you have to do adductions, adding back to the middle. So again, side lying, This time you're not going to move the upper leg, but the bottom leg. So just fix the upper leg by placing it in front of the other lower and just raise this lower leg. Straight is better than bent knee, okay? How can you load this? The best way to load this is to wear that loop around your thighs or your ankles, or you can place the dumbbell if you can fix it in place, okay? Can you do these exercises standing? Yes, you can. You don't have to be laying down. Again, if you have a resistance band, you can just place it somehow. Let's say I have this, or I can just place it up above my knees, okay, and then hold on to something, or just if you want to work on your balance without holding on to something, you can just do your abductions. Adduction is a little bit more challenging. You need to fix the band somewhere. Since I'm a fitness instructor, I have all these things in my home. I know that you don't have to, but if you are really interested, there are some discount sites you can purchase these things. So I just created this. It's easy to make and, you know, dismount after I'm done. I can do a squat and a row, for example. Then I can go ahead and use this, okay? Maybe in front of my foot and turn this way and do my adductions, adding back to the middle with some resistance or loading. And in the gym, you have these machines, which I don't recommend unless you have an injury or if you really need to focus on working those muscles. And now I can imagine some of you asking this question. Like, I don't like what is sticking out here, especially females. And actually, those are muscles which you need. They need to be strong to keep you upright. And some of my clients ask me, like, should I do the abduction machine in the gym to get rid of this? Actually, if you keep doing that, especially with a lot of weight, you're gonna build more muscle and make that area more defined, which is great, but it's gonna disservice you, okay? Defeat its purpose. So just to tone and lift the muscle underneath your skin and tone it up, yes, you have to incorporate those movements, but if they are functional, more functional, like the side lunges or front back lunges, they're much more useful and, you know, more for your buck, if you will. You're gonna spend less time and end up moving more muscle groups in the body. And then also to isolate after a surgery, you have your knee or leg extension machine in the gym. You sit. You can also mimic that at home by hanging your legs off of a table, okay? And then just putting a resistance band. If you really want to focus on your quadriceps, you can do the knee extension exercises. And then leg curl. I think you can do that at home by laying on your, or getting in the prone position, laying on your stomach, and then again, getting a resistance band and curling your leg or flexing your knee and pulling your heel toward your glutes. That's also part of a Pilates exercise. Okay, guys, that's about it for the lower body. This was a workshop where I taught you the single exercises about how to work your lower body. Of course, you can make a lot of variations from these, And this was not meant to be a workout, even though it ended up getting us worked. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'm gonna stop recording now.